I'm here to present the award to a woman who is a great contributor to equal access to justice in this country and in California in particular. Her name is Eva Paterson, and she and I have at least one thing in common. She was elected president of the student body at Northwestern University in 1969, and I was elected to that same office in 1954. She, however, was the very first African-American woman to achieve that position in what was still a nearly all-white student body. Okay. When I was there at Northwestern in the mid-1950s, there were not one African-American woman in the student body and only a couple of African-American men. One of those, Henry McGee, pioneered the road for Eva when he was the first African-American elected to serve on the 15-member student governing board at Northwestern. Much later, Henry McGee spent a quarter century as a UCLA law professor. It's the same person as may be familiar to many of you. Eva was raised in a military family, the daughter of a warrant officer who was stationed at various times in England, France, and the US. She early on displayed the speech-making skills that helped make her career. As a student, she delivered Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech at high schools all around the state she lived in. Eva took office as Northwestern student body president during a turbulent time on American campuses. Students were protesting the Vietnam War everywhere, including Northwestern. Then several student protesters were shot and killed at Kent State, and the Northwestern student body erupted. Some were urging the crowd of several thousand to burn down the NROTC building on campus. Eva stood before them and used her well-honed leadership skills to channel the collective anger into less violent and more productive courses of action. So she saved the Navy. This led her to be called the peaceful warrior. Eva's success at Northwestern was just a precursor of her leadership on many fronts. While still a student, she was chosen to oppose Vice President Spiro Agnew in a televised debate about the Vietnam War. She then went, after college, she went to the law school at the University of California, Berkeley, and when she left there, she joined the staff at the Legal Aid Society of Alameda County. While there, Eva co-founded A Safe Place, which was a shelter for battered women. Then she joined the staff of the San Francisco Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights and soon became its executive director. Among other achievements during that time, Eva was co-lead counsel in a lawsuit that succeeded in desegregating the San Francisco Fire Department. Continuing her pattern of creating new institutions, Eva co-founded and chaired the California Coalition for Civil Rights, and from that podium was a leading spokesman in the campaigns to defeat Propositions 187 and 209, and in other campaigns against the death penalty and discrimination of lesbians and gay men. At the national level, Eva served as vice president of the ACLU National Board for 8 years. Then, in the year 2000, Eva founded the Equal Justice Society and served as its president for the next 22 years. Under her leadership, the society employs litigation, social science research, and public policy advocacy to advance civil rights and anti-discrimination initiatives. Eva has not only won plaudits for her creative and charismatic leadership, but for her skills as a lawyer. One San Francisco newspaper named her one of the top 25 lawyers in that city. Another publication called her the go-to lawyer for civil rights litigation, and yet another observer simply said she was among the best lawyers in the city. I realize that this Equal Justice Award will join over 50 other awards Eva Paterson has already received. But how more appropriate could it be that this Equal Justice Award is going to the founder of the Equal Justice Society?
Hello, greetings from Oakland. I have been very nervous about today because I come from the 20th century and Zoom and all this stuff. I was wondering, how's this going to work? But I must say that I'm riffing off so many things that people have been saying tonight. Crystal talked about gratitude. When I was thinking about tonight, I was thinking that I'm filled with gratitude and love. But listening to all the speakers and hearing what the Western Center has done fills me with a sense of joy, which is also something that Crystal talked about. I retired a year ago, and now I call myself an OG. Ask younger people what that means, or older people. But it was so delightful to listen to all the young people who basically validated why I retired, because I know there are younger people who share my values, who have energy, who have power, and tonight all of that was on display. I'd like to thank the fellow honorees. Ms. Arias, as Earl Johnson said, I started my career as a law student and as a baby lawyer in legal services. I was the first Black lawyer that many people had seen in East Oakland. And I remember thinking that we're called lawyers and counselors at law. And something that Ms. Arias conveyed as she accepted her award and as people talked about her was the counseling part of it. The lady from Covington and Burling touched on the same thing. Poor people and people of color are often in just a world of trouble. And often, if they can come to a lawyer and the lawyer can just say, okay, you got this 30-day notice to be evicted, but we can stop that. Or, oh, there's a creditor coming after you, or they didn't follow all the laws. Oh, you were supposed to get some housing money and the state didn't do it, we can help you. So Ms. Arias, I think you represent that aspect of our profession. Covington and Burling. I worked for the Lawyers Committee in San Francisco, which is the analog of public counsel. And I know that without firms like yours, and also many of the firms who have given money tonight, we couldn't get our work done. When the lady was talking about the help with discovery, I'm just thinking of the boxes and boxes and boxes that are often dumped on public interest lawyers. And you all at the big firms don't flinch because you know how to do it, time stamping, all that. Bait stamp, I think that's what it is. I've been retired for a little bit. So thank you to Covington and Burling and all the firms out there who do pro bono work. We need you. And we know you also like this work. It's good work. Harry and Gina Belafonte, I was watching a special on Black comedians, and they talked about the fact that Black comedians see themselves as activists first and then comedians. And I think that's what you and your father felt. Mr. Belafonte was so amazing. He was in a lot of the footage, marching on Washington at the funeral of Dr. King. He was everywhere doing God's work, if you will. And I think that became more important to him than the film work. Although I must say, on the shallow side, I was in love with your father, as I'm sure many people were. And my favorite scene from him was in Carmen Jones, when he's driving Dorothy Dandridge to, I guess, be arrested or something, and they're singing There's a Cafe on the Corner. My parents had that record and played that a lot. So your father has been in my soul for a long time, and thank you, and thank him. And he did so much. I'm so sorry that he passed on. The Western Center, I must say, it's a great institution. Mr. Rodriguez talked about it as a beacon, and that's what I was going to say as well. It's as though when you put up the bat signal, Western Center is going to be there, and they're going to do great work, and they're fierce, and they get great results. So it's a double honor to get this award from you all. I must also say that you need to give Crystal a big raise. She's fabulous. She's delightful. She has a great depth of understanding of oppression and how to overcome it. She's doing great work on fundraising. And she also educated me and some of the IT people who are helping me be in the 21st century tonight, Diallo, Dewan, and Jacore. She was telling me that Derek Bell was the first executive director of the Western Center. I never knew that. And Mr. Rodriguez, I'm so glad you talked about his work on anti-Blackness and his work of fiction. He wrote this article called The Space Traders, and some of you may know about it, but the premise is that people from another planet come to America and they say, we will cure your disease. We will give you untold wealth. If you just give us all the Black people and let us take them away, but you may never ask what we're going to do with them. And I thought, Derek, you're just so negative. Nothing, things aren't that bad in America. Well, 30 years from then, I know that maybe there would be people who would send us away. So Derek, he was a fighter, and I'm so glad he was head of the Western Center, and I may have to pick up that reader as well. And then Terry Hatter was a buddy of my dad's, because my dad was an administrator at Legal Aid in St. Louis after he came back from the war in Vietnam. You also gave us Mona Tawatau, who's one of the best people on earth. Hi, Mona. Hi, Lisa Holder, who's the head of EJS. And hi, Priscilla Ochen. They're all people connected with the Equal Justice Society. Just a couple more things I want to say. I was asking Crystal how long I should talk. She said, well, you can talk for 7 minutes, but you don't have to talk that long. And I've often quipped that I was and some of you younger people may not get this, but I was a magna cum laude graduate of the Fidel Castro School of Public Speaking. I love to talk, but Crystal said, keep it short, so I will. One of the delights about this evening was getting to know Earl Johnson. He's an amazing man. He kind of opened the road for me at Northwestern and in legal services in California. He also fought the mob in Las Vegas. I know we're supposed to be talking about poverty and racism, but he's pretty tough if he was fighting the mob on behalf of the Department of Justice in Las Vegas. He also started legal services, so it was a delight to get to know him. There are two things I want to say in conclusion that I want to put on your hearts. And Mr. Rodriguez talked about this. Our democracy is in big trouble. There are authoritarian waves sweeping across the country. There is a strong anti-democratic feeling in this country. And we have to do all we can to preserve our democracy. One of the things that we can do is talk with people who may like authoritarianism. I want to share one brief anecdote with you. When I entered Northwestern in 1967, the year that Western Center was formed, I was in favor of the war. And I actually said these words to fellow students who were leaving to go to Wisconsin to work for Eugene McCarthy. I said and believed, well, the President of the United States says we have to go to war, and if the President says it, then we must do this. By the summer, I was getting tear gas at the Democratic Convention, took over a building at Northwestern, and came out against the war because I was worked on and listened to people who I respected, but I didn't agree with them at first, but they kept getting to me with good arguments. And when Bobby Kennedy came out against the war, I got there too. What I'm saying is many of you will know people who are inclined to go towards authoritarianism. Don't just give up on them. Some of them, if they're racist people, forget it. That's a waste of your time. But there may be people who you can convince to do the right thing. As it's often said, democracy is not a spectator sport, and we've got to fight tooth and nail to preserve our democracy. My final comment will be this. Ken Burns has a fabulous series on called The American Buffalo. And he's very kind of tricky because it's not really about the buffalo. It is, but it's also about how horrible we were to indigenous people. But one of the things that's said by one of the indigenous people is, I'll paraphrase it, it's that we are responsible for 7 generations to come. And so what I want to say is that we are destroying Mother Earth. This summer was horrifying. You guys had a hurricane in Southern California. We were all worried for you. There have been fires, droughts, floods, insane stuff going on. And it won't do us any good to have good housing for people, have people free from racism if we destroy the planet. So I'm retired now, and so I have a kind of a different perspective on things, but I think it's really important for us to take care of Mother Earth. It's our home. So anyway, I'm really happy to get this award. I wish I could be there. I'm in Northern California. Western Center rocks. Thank you very much. That's all. Bye.